What's up, everybody? Today I'm here with the bike that generated more buzz than the SM or RS 500 did for SWM, the SuperDual T. This mid-weight enduro bike with its dashboard reminiscing 1995 has been turning heads in Europe since 2017. Today we're going to do an overview of it, go for a ride, and stick around for the Motopologist rating at the end. Now most people are saying, that's just the rebadged Husqvarna 610, what's so special? Well, glad you asked. SWM bought the factory where Husqvarnas were being made, and they're now using the motor and frame. However, it is vastly different as they have improved emissions and modernized the bike with an electric start and a full EFI system. The SWM SuperDual runs a Husqvarna 600cc water-cooled motor, makes around 50 horsepower. Now, SWM did add a full EFI system, some headwork, and a Euro 4 compliant 2-in-2 exhaust. Thankfully, they also had electric start as the motor is a 12.4-to-1 compression setup. The SWM's chassis is fairly simple. A bright red tubular steel frame goes through the center, while engine guards are mounted on the top and bottom. The rear runs a conventional double-sided swing arm with a SAC single unit. The front forks are from a brand called Fast Ace and are 45mm fully adjustable. Now, Fast Ace is a Taiwanese brand that mainly does bicycling, however is slowly creeping into the motorcycle industry. The SuperDual comes in two different flavors, the T and the X, easily remembered by the phonetically incorrect extremely large wheels for the X, and the T being the more tame setup. The X runs a 21 front and 18 rear, both wrapped in Sahara 3s. The T is running a 19 front with a 17 rear, wrapped in the Tourance tires. Both are running a 300mm disc up front, Brembo brakes, and a 220 rear. ABS is able to be turned off or on. Well, that's enough reading off the spec sheet. Let's take this bike out and see how it does. Like most enduro style bikes, I like to throw them into two different settings: tight, technical, and completely not the intended area for the bike, and the more moderate gravel trail. The latter is preferred by the bike and myself, as the chassis is a tad bit on the heavy side to be lurking through unkept dusty berms. I was just waiting for a washout. At low RPM, the motor finds itself lugging along, just asking for you to twist the throttle. On the open dirt road, the RPMs were higher and the motor was in its power band. This helped tremendously with squashing the lurching and lugging the motor experience at low RPM. The SuperDual rode fantastic, with my only want being a softer rear spring. The SuperDual is more off-road oriented, and axle placement and geometry alone will clearly show that. But that doesn't stop me from trying to push in the corners. The SuperDual does well in long sweepers, but throwing a tight corner, you'll find the chassis displeased with you as the front end is on the verge of giving up. I bet with proper suspension setup, this would make a world of difference. The SuperDual handles slow speeds and in-town riding with ease as a single piston motor thumps along. The clutch release is smooth and shifting is pretty much spot on. The bike's lightweight feel hinders any muscle fatigue, and thankfully so, as I'm on the balls of my feet at every stop sign. Avoiding potholes? Easy. The offset axle allows the bike to be more nimble. The SuperDual maintains highway speed no problems, cruising at 85 miles an hour and only 6,100 RPMs. The wind blast is apparent as the coverage is not much more than a tilted windscreen and some bark busters. That being said, the wind was only hitting at my chin and my full face helmet took over from there. The knee bend radius and reach of the handlebars is very comfortable. The only downside was the fact I wasn't born with the longer inseam thanks to my mom and dad. My 32-inch inseam required me to stretch to touch the balls of my feet to the ground. Thankfully, the bike is lightweight and didn't cause any fatigue at stop signs. The wind protection is minimal, and high speeds this becomes more apparent. I'd have to give this bike an 8. Aside from the RPMs lugging traffic, the SuperDual makes a great commuter as the motor has good torque for throttling up to speed to keep up with traffic. But with the T in the name, you'd think a set of panniers would have been a standard option, allowing for some storage. Fuel consumption is minimal and a gauge is included on the dashboard. I'd be willing to do it 8 for commuting, but unfortunately the lack of storage brings it down to a 7. The lightweight feel of the SuperDual is nice, and putting a foot down doesn't mean I'll also be putting untrained muscles to work. The single brake disc up front and small rear disc out back provide adequate braking with no problem. The bike ramps up in RPM with ease as a twist of the throttle. For in-town riding where gobs of power are useless, the single-cylinder thumper is more than adequate. For in-town riding, I'd give this bike a 7. On-road, I felt the bike had great potential, but with any motorcycle, there's a give and take relationship between being an off-road bike and an on-road bike. Every manufacturer has a way of figuring out if they want 50-50, 30-70, 80-20, and the SuperDual was just guided more towards off-road spectrum. That being said, the on-road did great till I tried to push into the tighter corners on the factory settings. I'd give it a 6 for on-road. Off-road, the bike did great on the larger dirt and gravel roads. Simply holding the switch down for 5 seconds disabled the ABS and allowed me to avoid the chatter that comes with that. The bike, however, did not particularly care for the tight rock shell filled trails as the weight was a bit much. The axle offset being in front of the fork helped make the bike more nimble and was able to handle most off-road territory. For off-road, I would give it a 7. The single-cylinder motor is never designed to be an all-out ringer on acceleration, and we've seen that with most brands straying to a 2 or 4-cylinder setup. However, the ex-Husqvarna 600cc motor still has plenty of power to get up to speed quickly. For the size and platform of the motor to accelerate like it does from 0 to 60, I'd give it a 6. The number might be a tad higher, but the high mile an hour took time to climb up even higher. As mentioned earlier, the SuperDual is more off-road than on-road, so highway riding, of course, is not as good as it could be for an enduro bike. It did maintain 85 miles an hour, no problem. However, getting up to higher speeds experiences speed wobble, especially if you try to avoid debris in the road. The wind gusts are a little bit much as the windscreen is nothing more than a slanted piece of plastic, and the bark busters don't provide much protection. For highway riding, I'd give this bike a 7. Overall, the SuperDual is a fun bike and an incredible bargain, essentially buying a modernized and Euro 4 compliant Husky 610 for way under $10K. The bike has its intended riding area and does well at it, and where the bike falls short is easily handled by the aftermarket community. You'd be hard-pressed to get an enduro of this quality, but seriously, who put the turn signal below the horn? Remember, if you like this video, hit subscribe. No, seriously, please hit subscribe. I can't keep buying AA batteries on my salary alone.